Hello again. Welcome to Ideas in Action 22, Future Hype, revisiting Gartner's hype cycle. This one is going to be the last in our mini series on the tech backlash. A big question for us all. Can we predict the future of technology? Well, the record is not that great, I have to say. But over 65 years, there has been a hype fear lens which has been a common way, especially in the media, subsequently enhanced by social media, in which automation and advancing technologies have been viewed. Technology is portrayed as highly impactful, arriving quickly, and a force for good. Alternatively, this very power is seen as devastating for manual and skilled workforces, for privacy, for security, for equality, for control, for ethics, for ownership and surveillance. Beyond the hype or fear narrative, a much used, more extensive framework has been the 1995 Gartner hype cycle. This is widely used with businesses, and it suggests a pattern over time of, first of all, a technology trigger, followed by a peak of inflated expectations, a trough of disillusionment, a slope of enlightenment, and a plateau of productivity. You can see how seductive the language, the rhetoric of that is, and the idea that it sort of rolls out over time with a series of reactions and responses by business users and people who read Gartner. This I would call a technology hero journey. It starts off well with a lot of expectations, it dips, but eventually it picks up and the technology will deliver large amounts of business value. That was the idea of that model. It's a bit inflexible to say the least as an explanation of how most technologies are realized in the world. There's a very good practitioner, Milani, in 2016, carried out a detailed analysis of the Gartner hype cycle. He concluded that a very large number of technology trends are flashes in the pan, in fact, and don't follow this trajectory. Lots of technologies just die. They don't resurrect, like Gartner suggests. While Gartner's technical insight is often correct, the implementation of the technology does not necessarily follow, as something we find in our own research. There are a few core technical problems that have been worked on for decades. For example, speech recognition, internet, micropayments, data analysis, and those actually do not appear in hype cycle analyses. Some technologies keep receding into the future. They never actually get realized. Lots of technologies make progress when no one is looking, including Gartner. And many major technologies have flown under the hype cycle radar, e.g. x86 virtualization, NoSQL, open source, MapReduce, Hadoop. The Economist in 2024 endorsed this set of findings. They found the cycle is in fact a rarity. Only a fifth of technologies move through the cycle. Many are adopted without transitioning through the steps, e.g. social media, cloud computing, and others. Others fall by the wayside, with 60% that enter the trough of disillusionment not rising again. A high number of technologies are, as they said, flashes in the pan. A more academic approach was taken by two academics, Dedeher and Steiner, in 2016, provide a more academic underpinning for these conclusions. They have real problems with the hype cycle's theoretical derivation. Firstly, the mathematical summation of an opinion-based human-centric hype expectations model and the classic technology S-curve model to form the singular hype cycle model seems questionable as the underlying theories measure quite different phenomena. Secondly, this y-axis of expectations is imprecisely defined, allowing meanings to shift. Furthermore, expectations appear to reflect the perspectives of diverse stakeholder groups. This raises the question of whether expectations represent a composite view, and if so, how that view is being quantified. A more nuanced analysis that accounts for the specific concerns of individual stakeholders is therefore essential, but not provided by Gartner. In their own empirical work on major technologies, Dedeher and Steiner found that Gartner's expectations of a normal technology passing through stages in 5 to 8 years did not hold. Far from an average stage speed, expected to be between 0.625 and 1, the technologies investigated by these researchers had an average stage speed of only 0.23 stages per year, i.e. an average hype cycle duration of 21.76 years, which is above even the longest prediction of Gartner's long-fuse technology cycles. In other words, technology takes a lot longer, if it takes off at all, to diffuse to large take-up than Gartner ever conceives of. In summary, much of the empirical work of these researchers questions the analytical capability of Gartner's hype cycle model. Our own work suggests that massive hype or anxiety generated by technologies can throw them off course, accelerating them or holding them up, whatever their real capabilities and value. Expectations can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Consider, for example, the Y2K problem. Around 2000, this created a global 3-year scare of a massive computer shutdown. Media and journalists fed off the ancient narrative of potential millennial apocalypse. Corporations struggled with public relations stories of readiness, while publishers issued several Y2K survival handbooks. Yes, they did. In practice, very little occurred on the target day. The key lesson regarding technology expectations is that perceived risk can no longer be understood solely in terms of the likelihood of an event and the magnitude of its impact. Due to the powerful influence of communication systems, social media, and vested interests, the effects of technology and associated risks are increasingly shaped by the level of public attention, the emotional response or outrage that distorts people's perception. You then also have to add in the classic technology S-curve model. This suggests that a technology starts as costly, bulky, and little adopted. There follows a period when the fundamentals of the technology and its fit with organizations and problems are being worked on. Then, if this work is successful, rapid innovation and massive adoption may well follow. But eventually there will be a slowdown in significant improvement and fewer new customers will be forthcoming. The peak of the S-curve declines, giving opportunity for a better new technology with its own S-curve to come on top. The S-curve forms a useful starting point for understanding how technologies roll out, including today's and future digital technologies. See you next time.